it up.
Okay. We talk about IO when we get there.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it because there are more things to say about it. Oh, let me tell you.
Yes.
We haven't even talked about the fact that, oh yeah, we did mention it's volcanic. That means there is lava on the map. And by the way, you can build, there's basalt on the map, and you can build platforms to gather it and split it up into iron and silicon and uranium. So, details.
Notably, a little bit of each. Maybe not enough of each until you're at late game, but enough to run those important industries. And if you can be strategic about it, those basalt refineries, I suppose, would be the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
Pretty
okay.
Good. Pretty good.
Welcome to Game 3, everybody. We've got RCX Dude, Morgan, K, and Tufty Indigo here with us on IO. Looks like we've got Expansive, Scavenger, Scientific, and Nomads available for Founding. And see Game Wizard still here with us doing some commentary.
Hey,
There's some combo uranium and iron off in the west. That's kind of interesting.
Yes.
What else do we have here?
If I was a scientist, I would be looking at that spot. Scientists, of course, can use basalt for power. They can make glass on it. They can use it as basalt, or they could make steel. So, really versatile spot to have that much uranium and silicon next to all these basalt tiles. It might be just a little bit too one trick, though. Might not have enough versatility.
That said, I don't mind Tufty Indigo's location. That was pretty expensive at 30,000. IO. That's pretty darn dangerous. His debt can rack up pretty fast. But we've got access to very strong carbon. Once again, like on series, there are diminishing resources on IO. That is a lot of uranium to start the game with. And scavengers still continue to ignore them. So, not bad to have nice, strong resources as a scavenger.
I don't know how I feel about double uranium right off the bat, especially with a high and a medium, because that's just going to tank the market down to nothing.
That is. It feels excessive to me. Thankfully, they're close enough to your base that you're going to be able to rotate those tiles. You can just kind of like build out to them and then turn them into something else. So it may not be the end of the world. It's going to be extremely strong production for maybe about 40 seconds, and then it's going to be worthless. So
first up to 2.
First up to 2. If 40 seconds is all you need and you make the switch, maybe it's okay.
One thing to keep in mind just before we switch out is with power surges available, connecting up those buildings is more troublesome than maybe it would be.
The black market is online.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I don't want to leave them in uranium because it's just going to completely destroy that market.
One thing you could do is you could actually put ion collectors down. And since those don't require any input, just consume power, that's actually a decent enough play.
Yeah, it would be all right. We are going to see ion collectors coming down.
Yep.
Good, because, man, those are valuable, but not going to be in the uranium spot.
RCX Dude putting down an ion collector as well. Morgan going into a bunch of steel and ion collectors. And, let's see, Cake going into an ion collector and some nomads, some silicon, which is good for him as a nomad.
As it turns out, pretty important to have your base resource. Nomads do use silicon as their base resource, similar to the way that scavengers use carbon. So always important for them to maintain a large supply. Solar flare, everybody in ion collectors. Fuel's going to die off pretty fast here, so it'll be interesting to see what players decide to do after they've successfully killed off that particular market.
I don't know how I feel about K's found, just because as a nomad, you have the advantage of when you put down the one HQ, you get to put down that other HQ anywhere. It's the candy store of HQs, where if you can get, as you can see here, he's clearly got silicon, he's clearly got aluminum, it's probably not a huge deal there, which means your other claim, what do I want? Do I want carbon? Do I want ice? And you can see he's kind of prioritized having a triangle of ice, but he could have founded his whole HQ on ice and been next to some aluminum he could reuse in the weekends. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I might have been looking at the kind of bottom right corner in particular, right? There's some carbon-silicon combo down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got aluminum and ice right nearby. I think that would have been a nice spot for that second HQ. Because right now, this one's just kind of like vestigial and doing absolutely nothing for the time being. It's not really how you want to be using your bonuses as a nomad.
I did not even notice. I thought that Kay had gotten those solar condensers, but you're right. Morgan actually bullying Kay on those ice tiles, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's just like, I think I'd like these, thank you very much. And he even has some of his own ice next to his HQ too, so, you know.
Yeah, it really is just kind of pushing him down, shoving dirt in his eye.
Well,
Yeah, that's what you do. It's a fun game. It's a real fun game.
and it's Io. There's no room for being nice on this particular
That's right.
moon, as it turns out.
The most enjoyable thing about it sometimes can be getting to look at somebody and go, yeah, you can't have that. I'm doing better, so I get to have the nice things, you know?
Yeah. I want to point out that Tufty Indigo now has a stockpile of almost 800 uranium, which is worth a solid $9 a piece.
And, you know, something that gets lost in the wayside a lot is that there is there's no finite amount of money or resources you can get, but when it gets down to $1 a unit, it's basically worthless. Yeah. And so it's not even $9 a piece. It's $9 a piece for, say, the first, 30, 40?
For the first one, yeah.
Yeah, and then...
For the first few, and then it goes to 8, and then 7.
Right.
So most of that uranium is worth $1.
There definitely comes a point in both high-level play and situations like this where you just have a crap ton of uranium, where you need to realize that even if the price went up to the max, which is 1,000, it wouldn't actually make me enough money because I just have too much. And I could drop that I could even drop that. You know, I think that would take about 3,000, but it's not going to 1,000. You know, let's keep it real.
Yeah. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
This is IO. Uranium, honestly, typically is a little bit less volatile here than it is on Ceres, because on Ceres you have to specifically grab uranium, but on IO you can just put up these basalt platforms. And so Morgan, despite having no commitment to uranium itself, has nuclear plants down and still has a small surplus just because the basalt platforms are bringing in a small trickle for him, and he needed those for iron anyway long term. So
it's going to be
interesting. Works out just nicely for him.
See how Kay and Tufty deal with this adrenaline boost situation, because the traditional thinking on an adrenaline boost is, I need to shut that down. But in this particular case, it should be painfully clear, especially because there are no holograms available, that Morgan is running away with this. And that Morgan is the one who needs to be stopped. And that really, RCX, making a little bit of money on a boost, might be the thing you need. Yeah, that's a big one for Nanotech. That's... With his carbon access, it might be okay.
That was almost 48,000 debt for that right there. Just, you know.
Yeah.
That was a lot of debt.
A scavenger HQ has been upgraded.
At least he's
Morgan making a whole $6 a second on his farms, by the way. Just oh boy, water is awkward on IO. I think that's what we have to say about that. Nuclear plants are becoming defective at this point. Water processors, worth pointing out, do also provide a trickle of power in addition to making the water. And it's just what goes on in those particular reactions.
And if you can grab superconductor and perpetual motion, which is a huge investment and I would not recommend in this economy at all, it could be enough of a trickle. It can really
yeah. I mean, it can be all that you need for, and maybe even like put them next to a geotherm and get that geothermal borehole rolling.
Yes.
You can get a lot of power out of that. Transparent aluminum coming out for Morgan. Less valuable than it was a few patches ago, but certainly still a nice patent that is going to reduce the cost of his upgrade significantly, as he only has to rely on aluminum, which he has a significant amount of next to his base that he can collect whenever he'd like.
It also
rather
makes
than
farm
needing
transitions really nice. And when you're doing things like going for liquid batteries and for synthetic meat, which boosts your farms permanently, it could be really important to just be able to make a lot of farms once the water market naturally destroys itself. It's hard to find the perfect ratio on IO of food to water. It really is.
It is. It's really difficult to get that figured out. Oftentimes, I really like the games when I go double farm and then just get synthetic meat ready to go, because it feels like that's sustainable pretty easily. And then anything else, I'm just super uncomfortable about it in the entire game.
One small interaction that people who don't play a lot of IO might not be aware of, and I would really rather they became more aware of it because of how good boosts are, is the fact that if you boost a synthetic meat farm, it gets nothing. To the best of my ability to determine, yes.
Yeah, it gets nothing, because it essentially acts as though the building is being boosted the entire time. So we see the adrenaline boost now. Yes. The adrenaline boost simply doubles what that building does. It doubles both the inputs and the outputs of the building. So we can see this water processor, half an oxygen and 1 fuel. This boosted water processor, 1 oxygen and 2 fuel. But the output is also doubled. So it's just taking that market and magnifying it as though you had more of that particular building.
And let me just say, 2 fuel, it's really painful when you can see Morgan here's got a pair of ion collectors, and it's only making 2.7, I want to say. So if he were to hypothetically be running that boosted water pump, just the one, you know, that would be taking out most of what he's producing, and that is with
HQ has been
fuel
upgraded.
being, frankly, insanely easy to produce.
Pneumatic
HQ has been upgraded.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, samples coming out from Morgan. He's found a little bit of... Going to take that for himself. Both Morgan and RCX do at 5. They're looking pretty even in a lot of ways, but I definitely give the edge to Morgan.
Look at those claims.
Morgan's got a bunch of... Yeah, he's got more claims. He's got more patents. He is expansive still.
RCX is in that glass. That glass is not necessarily... Yeah.
It's bad.
Especially at HQ5. Because at HQ5, you're only looking towards an off-world or money with your glass. And so if it ain't making money, you best be moving towards an off-world.
And it's even worse because Morgan has already picked up... That was pressure on that glass market. So even if Morgan goes for the space elevators that we have on IO, the glass market is not going to recover for a while, and the transitions need to start coming out of RCX, dude. There are plenty of valuable markets left. We've got chems. He's already got some of those down. Maybe we could be looking at electronics as some nice, strong production long term. Probably wouldn't go wrong there. Extra claim. If I'm RCX, dude, I think I'm really after this because I don't see him having any silicon right.
Yeah.
And there's a high silicon not that far away. I mean, 16K would have been great. 20K still seems entirely acceptable. You'll need to pay down your debt a little bit, arguably, but
if he can't get access,
nice.
Hypothetically, he could be the first player to ever use the auction tile, or
congratulations.
Or he could maybe go into a core sample and maybe core that nearby silicon under his solar condensers. There's no rule that says you can't have silicon and ice together. So hypothetically, be a little bit playing the random number generator, but hypothetically, he could get a hold of some silicon under his claims and have it not be too expensive.
That's true. So he does have options to resolve that situation. But he does let the claim go on by to Morgan. Morgan set up for 2,000. That's a pretty hefty price to pay for a claim, but likely going to be worth it. Superconductor now coming out of Morgan. He has finished up liquid battery, synthetic meat thinking machines, and transparent aluminum already. So we're just gonna, run the table with the patents. Apparently, it's fine. They're good patents. IO has a bunch of good patents on it.
It does.
Can't really blame him.
Superconductor is much missed on Ceres, and so it is very, very nice to have it back for our IO maps.
It's a really good patent.
The patent lab
No
is
doubt about that.
Let's get our science.
Like it just turned.
It's the only way you're gonna go from D+2 to making power money. It's the only way.
That's true. Yeah, that's not lying there. All right, optimization center is down for Morgan. It looks like and again on his water. That sounds reasonable to me. I might have looked at fuel instead if I were him, as fuel's price is starting to go a bit crazy, and optimizing water is great, but you're still skyrocketing that fuel price. And you don't want to leave that market open because it's so easy to move into that market as long as you have a small supply of carbon. So it's a dangerous thing to let everybody else do. Morgan has 5 goon squads just sitting here that nobody's doing anything about this game.
Yeah, well, you only have to knock the one off his space elevator to be effective. The other ones are just kind of giving them moral support.
The engineers have advanced our production.
He does already have thinking machines, so even that. Perpetual motion coming down from RCX, dude. He did decide to start competing in the patents. Morgan has moved out of that patent lab, so he's done with that this game. K is probably happy to see this ridiculous fuel price, except K is doing enough shipping and has these water processors online. So even though the ion collectors are really good, not actually making any money from them.
Market is open for business.
K, you mentioned he had a vestigial HQ.
Yeah.
He did get a pair of farms down, which I'm sure draws your ire even further.
Yeah, it does. It does. Pair farms.
Really?
Anyway.
Okay, I'll be honest here. I was mislooking. I saw Tufty Indigo's icon. I thought he was at 4. I was about to say I'm really disappointed to see him at 5 and not using this HQ at all. But it's a little better. It's a little better because he doesn't have the claims that he wants to have. I'd like to see him maybe get out of those farms and into electronics, just because that'll get him to 5, for lack of a better thing to do with your time. But
yeah. It's dangerous going Nomad and being slow to those upgrades. It can just get so expensive to move through when electronics keeps going up and up and up and up and up, as we've seen it do
and
this particular game.
He decided he wanted double carbon, which I am not against. But as you pointed out earlier on, there was that silicon carbon spot that he could have been making use of right now.
It would have been so good.
And that would have been carbon for him too. And he maybe could have had 2 claims there, and if he had an HQ there, he could transition those claims. Those claims wouldn't have to be sitting here giving him $4 a unit carbon. It looks like he might be transitioning. No, he's returning. Okay. He's figured out carbon's a problem. He's moving out.
He's working on it. That is an advantage of being a Nomad, of course. Claim returns, 1 per upgrade at this point, so you get a total of 5, because you get 1 when you found as well.
Yes.
Meanwhile, as we're looking at Kay and kind of like poking about with Tufty, who have been running behind this game, most of our focus has been on RCX Dude and Morgan, because those are the 2 who have really been competing this entire time. And Morgan has identified this fact and realizes, you know, if I just knock RCX Dude out of the game,
I win.
I'll just win.
Yeah,
it's just over.
You can't let
so
them get this.
Morgan's going to be after that. He's
too late.
got about 60% of the cash that he needs to finish off RCX Dude at this point. Only needs about $130,000 more dollars in order to mostly clean up this game.
That's my favorite thing about a free-for-all, the psychological aspect of it, is that when you're in a free-for-all, it is often equally good to try and just focus all of your attention on the player whom you recognize as being roughly as informed, as skilled, as muscle memory up as you, and what you need to do. Or alternatively, you go for the weak player, but it's never one or the other. You know, it's not always best to just try and hit whoever is your biggest threat, but it's also not always best to just say, hey, you know, Tufty's in C-level dead. Maybe I should just throw all my money behind buying him, because either could potentially be handing the game to someone else.
Yeah. Oh, it changes up each game. You kind of have to be
methods continue to improve
in each game to know which one to go for. In this case, Morgan knows he and RCX Dude have been absurdly far ahead this entire time. Tufty never really materialized into a threat. Similar thing with K, never materialized into a threat. So he knows that in this case, it's much better for him to go ahead and knock out number 2 than it is to try and pick up maybe the easy number 4.
So much money.
That could be good. That's really good for players who are getting into the game, because it means they get to play the game.
It does. It does mean they get to play the game. Morgan has the cash on hand to finish off RCX Dude if he would like to, but I imagine he's going to sit back and wait, because a lot of that is wrapped up in his off-world markets, and he doesn't want to be canceling out those launches. He's not concerned about pushing to this buy super fast. He's not threatened in any way whatsoever.
No.
So he's just going to sit back and wait.
I do not, even with thinking machines, I do not necessarily like players being so lackadaisical about dynamiting and power surging everything Morgan owns.
It's true. I mean, and underground nukes are available too. I'm sure we could have found some use for those at some point this game.
Yes.
They're sitting at about 3K. It's not honestly the easiest black market to get aggressive with, but there are spies. Yeah, not with those core samples there in particular, but there are spies, and so you can still get something done, and it's much better to go ahead and do something than it is to simply sit back and let your opponent, you know, just win the game, which is what Morgan's angling to do right about now.
I would put forward, especially in free-for-all.
Our methods continue
entirely
to
in
improve.
free-for-all. Target selection, says there is none in 1v1, is super important. You know, being able to look at someone and judge them based off of what it looks like their long-term plan is, and what you think they're going to do in anticipation, more important necessarily than just having, you know, the most experience at one time. A lot of experienced players find, as the new meta, they claim, you know, sometimes jokingly in Discord, is to play a little bit worse, so that you'll be overlooked until you can get yourself in a dominant position.
I've definitely I've definitely done that before. I can't say that it was intentional,
black
but
market
it
is
has
open for
helped me out
business.
before to be a little bit worse at the game than everybody else, so that the really good players are fighting it out with each other, and you just kind of like slip in under the radar.
All
Morgan,
intentional if you win.
yeah, all intentional if you win, obviously.
engineers have
I
advanced
would have
their
appreciated it if
production
Morgan had
successful
focused his
elevation.
cash to knock out one
Rising.
time, but he's got Tufty knocked down.
Yeah.
Immediately knew what to do with his 2 claims from that. I don't even know what I guess a couple of ion collectors. Sure, why not? Fuel at 171, no problem. And he will be looking to clean up K very, very quickly.
Our
For
methods
a
continue to
nice
improve.
solid victory for Morgan here. He was just ahead of the curve this time around. Nobody really keeping up with him.
Morgan went into this with a solid game plan. He knew what patents he wanted. He didn't get greedy at the patent. Oh, he got a little greedy at the patent lab. But he got good patents, so it worked.
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
He knew what
And being
optimizations he wanted.
Space
He did, and sometimes being greedy
So
is the
much
correct
money.
play. If nobody's going to threaten you,
Yeah.
it can be. I mean,
The
like
dirty
right
rat
now, for
trying to
example,
break
Morgan's
our
like,
stuff.
defend myself.
Why
Why would I
bother?
bother to do that? I can just go win the game. And so he's going to sell out of all of his stock he possibly can
Yeah.
just to clean up this game that much faster. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes in off-world trading company, greed is good.
Yes, especially as an expansive. If you're an expansive, I like to use the philosophy of, well, I'm an expansive, so I can do whatever I want when I'm placing claims.
That's true.
You know, can I afford to invest in 2 carbon? Yeah, the expansive
Yes.
could. Exactly.
Expansive can, for sure. You got 4 more claims than everybody else.
Yep.
So you better make good use of them. That was a good victory to Morgan. I'm going to check our spreadsheet once again. Maybe I'll even bother to fill it out this time.